I'm Mike Thomas, President of Kiwi Indian Motorcycle Company. I'm going to give you a little tutorial around a 101 Scout in the 1931 era. Pretty cool bike. What makes it particularly special is in its time it had a short wheelbase, had a great power to weight ratio, 45 cubic inch. Very awesome handling motorcycle. Even by today's standards, but back in the day it was as well. Cool motor lamp. Here and there. Speedometer was an accessory. This particular one has a speedometer. The ignition switch worked off. You had your park, and you went the other way for ignition, low beam, high beam. Come in on that. Off. To your left would be park, which is, you got to be careful when you're turning the bike off because it's all the way to the left is not off, it's actually on park. So then you got off, ignition, low beam, high beam. Ammeter to tell you how your generator's working. Speedometer on these things, the actual drive, the cable, it's in here. And it's actually made up of chain links. And on each end of the cable in here is a ball thrust bearing. So a normal chain would actually bind up and want to pull in. So that's why they put a thrust washer on each end. They didn't have the fancy cables what they have today. So they used the flexible link via chain links. We do have a horn button. Left side is advance and retard. This is retarded, advanced, retarded, and that operates a lever down on the magneto. Advanced, retarded. Over here we have the throttle being left hand, idle, accelerate, low speed, accelerate. That's all internal control. There we have the front brake lever, which operates the front brake. Now, in order to turn the engine off, it's not just a matter of turning off the ignition switch. You can turn off the ignition switch, but it actually won't shut the motor off. You come down here, I've got this little lever here, push that down, and that's the decompression lever right there. So that will kill the motor. This has a variable oil pump. It's a total loss the engine. There's a total loss engine, which means it either leaks out or burns out. So this motor is going to smoke. It's designed that way. The oil comes from the oil tank, which we've got a feed line here, and we've got another line here, which is has an oil plunger on it. And you give that a squirt when you're going up This is the oil pump plunger up here. You give that a squirt when you're high-speed riding or up a steep hill, the motor's working hard. We have additional oil pump. This is the gas cap. Oh, sorry, that is the oil tank. And this is the gas tank. And it has a pump on here, or plunger, back in the oil. So right here is your plunger. You'd suck fuel up. This would give it the motor some additional choke in the old days. And it'd have some cups actually on the other side, so let's go around to the other side. Right here, we got a cup here and a cup here. The front cylinder, rear cylinder. And what you do, this motor is hot, so I'm not going to do it, but you only do it when it's usually cold, initial startup. You undo these primers, different names on them, probably depends on what part of the world you're from. Primer cups, unscrew it, push the plunger down, squirt some gas into the top end of the cylinder, close it off, do likewise to the front. Quite a process. Seems like today you don't ever need it. But at the same time, I mean, you got a choke over here as well. Choke is prime all the way up, start, warm up. So we got choke, start, warm up, open, which is hot. The primary drive, which is in here, is gear drive. So we've got a gear here. Actually, if we're driving, we've got a driver gear here, we have an idler gear here, and a big gear here. And these are helical gears. It's quite a good system for its day. Over the years they can get noisy if people mismatch, you know, they get worn out. If they get mismatched, they're going to be a little bit noisy. This particular one's quite quiet. It drives the generator drive, which is a generator up here, and it's via a belt. Down here it's still gear drive. Down here it's still gear drive from here up through here and belt to the generator itself. Nice toolbox. Battery sits down yonder. Oil level plug. Foot clutch. Typical Indian. And this particular one, because it's got a variable oiler, you can actually see one of the cables here goes to the throttle and the carburetor. This other cable goes to the oil pump. So we come back here, we'll actually see it flying off. So as we accelerate, this one here, so as you're accelerating, this one here is opening up the oil pump for a little bit of additional oiling. What a cool little bracket assembly. So we'll go over the oil pump. You have to excuse me, I'm doing this as a one-man band, so it might be a little jiggly. The camera might bounce around a little bit. But we're over here at the oil pump. So this is the cable from the variable oiler from the other side on the hook to the throttle cable, and this is the oil pump adjuster for the amount of oil. It's more of a metering device actually, so I wouldn't really call it a pump. That would be quite overrating it. But that's the metering device. And down here, I'll show you this little piece here, rotating around. So as we're accelerating, it's opening up the oil pump as well. Deaccelerating to idle, accelerating, opening up. This particular one's pissing out a bit of oil. Brake pedal. And this is the engine breather tube. Pretty cute little engine. The exhaust is held in with some flange nuts. Some multi-piece exhaust comes down. We've got a joiner down here. We've got a kickstarter, gear shifter, first gear being up, second, third. Seat, fully suspended, very comfortable ride. The only thing is you get a little bit of a wobble going in the seat. Just the nature of the beast. So since this one here's got a speedometer drive, or speedometer, and that's an accessory, this is how it's driven. It's got a fiber sprocket here, and it just drives from the rear sprocket itself. This is the rear brake cam operating lever. This one here's got a pretty bitchin' rear brake. Some of the earlier ones had a band that went around the brake drum. I call them external contracting, and they just wrapped around drum and clamped down on the drum itself. This one's actually a later model one. It's got a nice, good brakes. Luggage rack. Really bitchin'. Little taillight. So, take a look at the generator drive on the back side. You can see the pulley that comes out of the back of the primary drive, the belt there, and it drives up to the generator itself. The front end is leaf spring front end. Leaf springs are awesome handling front ends, especially on Indians. They just really got it right. Don't think that it gets a pogo effect. The leaves themselves cause friction as they're operating. They're actually fighting against each other, so you don't get that pogo up and down bounce that Harley guys get with their albino Springer front end. I could call it something else, but we'll just leave it at that. Yeah, it's got leaf spring front end. The rocker pivots through here, through the end of the fork, and then we've got this plunger set up here, and it's designed to also rotate, because as the rock is coming up, the center distance is changing, so this too has to keep aligning itself. So it's important to keep plenty of grease in that. Lubrication is your best friend. This Indian had the best horn face of any motorcycle, actually any vehicle, anything, period. I mean, look at the detail in that horn face. Just beautiful. And we've got an accessory light on it, mounted on the handlebar. All pretty basic. Just like this here, it's just all very mechanical, very basic. And this here is the dash light. the bike running, and we shut it off. Come down to the pressure. And she's off.